Hello, hello! I went thrifting recently for the first time in quite some time, and I thought I would bring y'all along and talk a little bit about my thrifting process, if you will, and show you some of the stuff that I got. So I'm not a big thrifter or a big shopper in general. I was more when I was younger. I've tried to make it more of a priority to only shop when I have something to shop for. So on this day that I went shopping, my goal primarily was winter clothes. And so this is where I started, is at a Goodwill. So I was looking for a coat or two that fits kind of my current style. I was looking for sweaters and long sleeve shirts because if you're paying attention and watching all of my videos, you might have noticed that I wear like the same 3 long sleeve shirts, and that's because they're the only 3 that I like and that fit my current aesthetic. And so that's the overarching theme of why I needed to go thrifting, was to find stuff that fits my current aesthetic. I change my aesthetic like every couple of years probably. And it's always like a complete commitment to an entirely new look, which I kind of wish that I didn't do that, because it means that I have a strong desire to buy new stuff during those transition periods. I succumb to that desire because dressing to my current aesthetic is like a very joyful experience for me, and it makes me very happy to have like a specific, very honed in look, and it's worth it. It's worth having to kind of do a full closet makeover every couple of years, and I do it by thrifting mostly, so it's not even that unaffordable. So my current aesthetic, which I've had for about 6 months, is very retro, mostly 80s but some 70s, and also very tomboy-ish. And it was partially inspired by Stranger Things, partially inspired by the passion that I had for roller skating 6 months ago. And we all know how that turned out. If you don't, I broke my leg while roller skating. There's a whole video about it. So picking out new winter clothes that fit that aesthetic, and then secondarily t-shirts and things like that. So this Goodwill that you've seen me pushing the cart around in this whole time is my regular Goodwill that I go to first whenever I'm going thrift shopping. I found some of my favorite clothes of all time at this Goodwill, and I tried on probably 10 things there, which is a lot for me. It may not be a lot for other people, but it is a lot for me. And I will show you at the end everything that I got, but I got 3 things there. And then next I went to another Goodwill, which I had never been to before, but Goodwills have always served me well. So, and this one, when I went in, I was like, oh, this is so cool, maybe this should be my new regular Goodwill. But then I didn't find anything. I tried on 1 item, well 2, I tried on 2 items and bought one of them. So the selection was not as good, but also I don't think I looked as hard, because I get thrift fatigue really quickly. I look through t-shirts for 15 minutes and I'm like, oh, I just get tired of looking through everything, and so I don't look through as much. And so after that, I went to 3 more stores, and they were all locally owned, smaller stores, and I chickened out on filming in them, so you just get more Goodwill footage while I talk about them. But the first one is a locally owned thrift store. The clothing selection was incredibly small, and so I was disappointed, and I was about to leave until I saw that they had it upstairs. The thing that kept me there were their boxes of records, which I should clarify, I do not yet own a record player. I've been planning on getting a record player for several months, because it all wraps into my retro aesthetic that I'm doing. I've also been listening to music from primarily the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like, I have a Spotify playlist for it, and that's almost all that I listen to. And so records have been a part of that I wanted to explore. And so I went, and there were a bunch of records. I don't have my record player yet, but I picked out some. They're so cheap. I cannot believe how cheap secondhand records are. And then the final area I went to, there's like this secondhand district area that has a bunch of stores. And I was just going to this one vintage clothing store, but right next to it was a record store. And I was already all excited about records, so I went in and got a couple more. And then finally the last vintage clothing store I've been to several times, and it's a really cool store because it's so curated. It's not like a thrift store where it's just whatever people have donated. It's like they go out and seek out cool vintage clothing, and it's really fun to explore. But the times I've gone before, it's like curated to a certain vibe, and it's not my vibe. So I'd never found anything that I would want to wear, but I found a lot of things that were really cool. But today I did find one thing, and I was very pleased, but it was a lot more expensive than everything else because it's a vintage store. So it's the next day, and I'm excited to show y'all everything I got while thrifting. This first shirt is my favorite thing that I got all day. It's this striped long sleeve shirt. I am really into these stripe patterns where they're not like totally even stripes, or there's some variation. And this is the first of that kind of stripe that I've actually owned on a piece of clothing. And it's good, and I love it. And it is the number one thing that I got this weekend, and it was $7. And then from that same Goodwill, I got this long-sleeved shirt that's black and gray and red. It has like a very 90s 12-year-old boy energy. Like, it was in the women's section, but I think it actually was like a boy's shirt, and it was also $2. We love it. And then the third thing I got from that first Goodwill is this pocket tee, which is very cute. I believe it was from Men's, but it's an extra small, and it looks really cute with my current aesthetic, which is what I'm going for, and it was $5. So at that second Goodwill, I only got one item, and it was this puffer coat. I think I've officially decided that red is my new favorite color. It was orange for a long time, and I think it's red now. And I was so excited to find this coat because my old coat felt very dated. It felt like, you know, high school me. And this coat's cool also because it has a removable hood, which I'm really into because I don't like the bulkiness of hoods normally, but absolutely in the right weather conditions, I would use a hood. With this coat, it is so puffy. And the size is great. It fits really nicely, but I wish it was just a little bit less like marshmallowy. It's cute, and it absolutely like is worth it, but I just wish it was just a little bit smaller. And this coat was $13. And then, as we all know, I diverged from my clothes shopping and went into record shopping for a little bit, which was so worth it, and I'm so excited. And let me show you the records I got. So something I neglected to mention in my voiceover is that another part of the reason that I'm into this retro aesthetic now is because, especially over the summer, I was really into the movie Rocketman, the Elton John biopic. And so I was really excited to see an Elton John record at the thrift store, but unfortunately this is a record that I really was thrilled to see. It's It has several of my favorite Elton John songs on it, but unfortunately I opened it up and it was a different Elton John album, and it was not like one of his albums. It was like a compilation the record company made, and so I'm totally down. I still bought it because we love Elton John in this household, and now I have the album cover, the sleeve for one of my favorite Elton John albums, and I can listen to other Elton John songs, so still a win, but unfortunate. And then I got a few other vintage records. I got this Starship one, which the only song I know from it is We Built This City, which is an excellent song. And then I also got an Electric Light Orchestra album and a Cyndi Lauper album, which this one has Girls Just Want to Have Fun and Time After Time, which are both songs that I know and love, and then some others that are familiar. And then also this John Cougar album. This has Jack and Diane on it, which is one of my favorite songs. So I'm kind of like just now diving into some of these artists, but one song can spark an interest, so I'm looking forward to listening to those. And then a Billy Joel Greatest Hits. So those are the ones that I got from the thrift store, and then I went to an actual record store, and I got two Elton John albums. One is A Single Man, which I only know one song off of it, which is kind of a theme for all of these. And then this one is like a greatest hits Elton John album. I wonder when it was released. It doesn't say on the outside. And then I went to that last vintage store, and there I got this like hunting jacket type of deal. It has like a plaid lining and brown exterior, and it really gives me Stranger Things season 1 vibes, which I'm here for because a lot of my style has I've looked to Stranger Things for inspiration. It was the most expensive item I bought because it was from the vintage store, but I think it was like $35, which for a really nice like actual quality coat is dope. So that is everything I picked up. I was really hoping to get more shirts because I am low on long sleeve shirts especially, but these two that I got will really help. And I'm definitely all set on jackets and coats now. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched all the way through. I appreciate it. I know I've been making longer videos recently, but that's because I like it, so that's how it be. Okay, I'll see y'all next week.